All right, today we're going to go ahead and start with our new unit since we're not going to be testing at home. So today we're just going to do some review on angle relationships. All right, so the first angle that we're going to review is just complementary angles. And so the definition, if you look in your textbook, is two angles whose measure have the sum of 90 degrees. And so remember, sum just means that they add up to 90 degrees. And so here, if we have two angles, they're going to add to 90 degrees, which is a right angle. And so the little box here depicts that it's 90 degrees. And so we can just kind of cut the angle. And so here, if this is, let's say 30 degrees, and we know these are complementary angles, then the bottom here has to be 60 degrees, because once again we would have to have the two angles, so the 30 degrees plus the 60 degrees is going to have to equal the 90 degrees. All right, so here we do have homework tonight, and so that's going to be the angle relationship with equations worksheet. And so we're going to be doing numbers 1 through 11, and so for this video I'm going to be doing 3 of the examples. So if you want to go ahead and take out a sheet of paper and start copying these examples, that way you'll get about half of your homework done through this video. So here example 1 is question 1, and so if you guys can see here, it lets us know by this square that this is going to be 90 degrees, and so therefore we would call these complementary angles. And so our setup here is going to be x plus the 40 degrees has to equal our 90 degrees. So if we want to solve for x, remember we're going to do the inverse operation, and so the opposite of adding 40 is going to be to subtract 40 degrees, and whatever we do to one side of the equation we're going to go ahead and do to the other side. Our 40 here is going to cancel out, leaving us simply with the x, and then 90 minus 40 is going to leave us with 50 degrees. And so here our answer would be x is equal to 50 degrees. Alright, the next type of angle that we're going to be talking about, and we did mention this in our last unit when we were talking about angle, the angle addition postulate, is supplementary angles. So the definition of supplementary angles are two angles whose measures have the sum of 180 degrees. We also call these our straight angles. Okay, so just once again, remember this here is going to be, it creates a straight line which once again measures 180 degrees. And so here it will create two angles, and so here if we know that one is 100 degrees and we want to solve for the other angle, we'll just call it x. We know because it's a straight angle or supplementary angles, here we're just going to add 100 degrees plus our x and set that equal to 180 degrees. We want to get x by itself, and so here same thing, we want to do inverse operation. The 100 is positive, so we are going to subtract 100 degrees from both sides, and therefore it would leave us with x is equal to 80 degrees. And that would be our answer there. Okay, and so then looking at our example from our worksheet or our homework tonight, I'm going to look at question number 5. So here you guys can see that this is a straight angle. Okay, meaning that it's going to add to 180 degrees. And so here we're simply going to add both of our angles. So whether it's a simple number or whether it's an expression x plus 20, we're still going to add them. So here the way we would set this up is x plus 20, and then to that we're going to add the 5x plus 10 is going to still equal the 180 degrees, because remember these are supplementary angles that create our straight angle, therefore it's 180. This one's going to have a few more steps, so here we're going to want to combine like terms. So looking at our x's, we have x plus 5x, leaving us here with 6x. And then we have a positive 20 plus a positive 10 is going to give us positive 30 is equal to 180 degrees. So here I'm just going to move this work up here. So we have our 6x plus 30 is equal to 180. Once again, I want to get the x by itself. And so here I'm going to do the inverse operation, subtract 30 from both sides. Okay, it's going to cancel out, leaving me with 6x is equal to 180 minus 30 leaves me with 150. I want to get x by itself and divide by 6 on both sides here, so that'll turn into a 1, and here when we divide 150 by 6, it's going to equal 25. And so remember, most of your phones do have a calculator, so feel free to use that as you work some of these problems out. Okay. All right, and so the last angle that we're going to be reviewing here are going to be our vertical angles. And so the textbook definition is that they are the non-adjacent angles formed by two intersecting lines. Okay, so let's kind of draw that out. So we have two lines and they are intersecting. Okay, adjacent, meaning two angles that are next to each other. So here, these two angles would be adjacent because they're next to each other. Okay, and so if they're non-adjacent, here this is where they're across from each other. So it would be like this angle and this angle, or we would have this angle and this angle here. Okay, and so what's important about vertical angles is that vertical angles are congruent. Okay, so if you want to write that down, vertical angles are congruent. And so if you remember from our last unit, congruent means that they are the same. Okay, so here, if this is going to be, let's say, let's give this the value of 60 degrees, this would also be 60 degrees. Okay, and then these here would have to be 120 degrees. And this would also be 120 degrees. Okay, and so let's move into our example. So here, for our example from our homework or our assignment, we're looking at two intersecting lines here. So these lines here intersect. And so if you can see, these two angles are not right next to each other. They're instead across from each other. So that's what we call vertical angles. And so we said that they are congruent. Congruent, remember our symbol here is the equal sign with a little squiggly on top, means that they are the same. And if they are the same, we're going to set them equal to each other. So we have 2x plus 6 is equal to 96. I want to get the x by itself, so I'm going to do the inverse operation. The opposite of adding 6 is subtracting 6. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Our 6's cancel. We're left with 2x is equal to 96 minus 6 leaves us with 90. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And here, x is going to equal 45. Okay, and so remember, x here is not the angle itself, but rather the x value. Okay, so we don't have to have a degree there. Alright, so I hope this video helped you. I did post another video in case you want to just have more examples or just have somebody else explain the different relationships, but I do want to point out that your assignment for today is posted. It's the angle relationship with equations worksheet, and you're going to be working out problems 1 through 11. So we already did 3 of those, so you have a few left to do. Make sure that you do it on a separate sheet of paper, and then you take a picture of your work. I would recommend that you box your final answers, and so remember, my policy, no work, no grade. So make sure that you are showing the work. Do you have to copy the diagrams? You don't have to, but I highly encourage you to, because it's just more practice and it just kind of helps it sink in a little bit more. So if you have any questions, feel free to send me a School Loop email. You can reach me on the Remind app, or you can send me a message through Google Classroom as well. Have a great day, guys. Bye.